All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Offsec Live. I'm your host, TJ Nall, and for today's session, we have three awesome panelists that are going to be sharing their experience on how to break into cybersecurity. So, first, I want to welcome Harb, Siren, and Busra to the stream. It's great to have you all here today.
Thanks for
Glad to
having us,
be here.
TJ.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with our first question that I have here today. So, what's going to happen for this stream is that I'm going to pick one of you, right? That's going to start off with the first question, and then I want you guys to kind of carry along as well about, your part of where you were, right, where the question's going to be. So, let's start with Harb. So, the first question I have is, how did you get started in cybersecurity? What got your start in this industry?
Sure. So first of all, for those who don't know me, my name is Jeremy. I go by Harbinger. I'm the content development manager of the pen testing and exploit development track here at Offsec. Um, and my start in InfoSec was really non-traditional. I actually wanted to be a lawyer, of all things. And I ended up working for a lawyer as a intern, and I really enjoyed working with him, but I realized that I didn't want to actually pursue law. So, what does one do with a philosophy degree? Well, I really enjoyed um, logic, and logic led to computation and complexity theory and artificial intelligence, and I slowly became more and more technical with it, really realizing it. Um, I interned for an AI firm, and it turned out that to pursue AI, you really need a lot of math. And I didn't have a lot of a mathematical background. So one of the mentors there suggested that I go into InfoSec. And you might think, well, where's the connection between AI and InfoSec? And that was my question. And their answer was, you're thinking about other agents. You're thinking about other agents that are trying to do things that you may not want them to do. In AI, you're thinking about how some strange alien mind might work. In InfoSec, we're not thinking about aliens, but we are thinking about other people, smart people who are trying to do things that we don't want them to do. And I thought that was really cool. And so um, I took a small degree in digital forensics, and then I found OffSec, and I tried the OSCP. It took me quite a long time because I didn't have a technical background, so I had to learn system administration and a little bit of scripting and networking and all the things that we call prerequisites today. I had to kind of teach myself. Um, Eventually, I passed the exam, and immediately after, OffSec happened to be hiring for student administrator positions. Those of you who interact with our student admins know what they do, but back then, OffSec was only 15 people, something like that, and student admins did a little bit of everything. So we did some infrastructure work, we did some teaching, we did some content development, we even did some pen testing. It was everything all at once. And since then, the company has grown a lot, and I've had the opportunity to pursue a bunch of different roles, including project management, product management, and most recently, content development management. So that's my story. That's how I got here, and I'm super fortunate and super lucky to be with OffSec, and happy to be here.
That's awesome. Siren, Bushra, do you guys want to be able to answer, give your thoughts about how you guys got in the industry?
Busra, you can go first. I was gonna say we should have done this before. I could have flipped a coin or something, but you take the floor.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Busra. I work at Offsec for the last 6 months. I'm a senior vulnerable machine engineer. My story is kind of funny. I get into InfoSec like around 8 years ago. And back in college, I was doing double major. I was always a nerd with math and computer engineering. And I had this huge 5 to 10 years of plan for myself, for my future. I was applying for PhDs in Ivy colleges in US, and I was going to get my PhD. And then I was going to start working at different startups in Silicon Valley. I was going to run my own gaming company. I was going to be a software developer, but it was not my passion. It was just like a obvious path in front of me because I did double major with computer engineering. And then I was doing an internship before I graduated, and I met a hacker. And then this changed everything. I remember he was doing some binary exploitation project. I don't remember what it is exactly, but I was in love with the project that he was working on. I was literally asking him if I can just watch his screen during my lunch break so that I was skipping lunch and just watching what he's doing. It was like magic for me back then. And then I decided to change my path and started hacking from the beginning, and I get in a consultancy. I started working as a junior pen tester, and I learned about all the Offsec certifications, started working my way on OSCP, then I get OSCE, and then OSWP. And since more than 1.5 years, I guess, I've been working on my way to OSCE, because I do believe that that's a great path for you to learn something. There are already some experts out there that create some certification, and the learning path and also syllabus and the content's great. It's literally like given to you so that you just need to ace it. So yeah, that's my story in InfoSec, and I love every single day that I work in this industry.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing your story about that. Siren, we know some of us know your story, but go ahead, share it to us.
So, how did I get started in the security sector, in the security industry? It started actually when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. I got my first laptop. My father's like, okay, I'll buy this laptop for you, but you got to promise me. I mean, we're not getting this unless you promise me that you learn a programming language. And that was like out of left field. You know what I mean? And I started learning JavaScript and HTML. This was back even way before MySpace even dropped. So when MySpace hit, I was ready with the JS, the HTML, and I loved the MySpace era. But that also got me like hugely into security, right? Like seeing that people could eject your CD drive, just, you know what I mean? By browsing to the page. JS had to get that fixed. So I got interested in security at an early age. I started looking for, I found this one little piece of code that ejected a CD drive from JavaScript. And I'm like, weaponized code, what does that even mean? And I found Millworm. And I found out they had like a chat room kind of thing. And I joined, and people would talk about weaponized code and coding all the time. And the next thing I knew, I was in middle school. I was not paying attention to the teacher. And I was like in my own little scratch book. I'd taken out a pen and I would print out code, and then I would commit it to memory because I didn't know what it was. It was all gibberish. It was completely gibberish. But I figured this is code that's very much intended to do something. It has a target. It has a purpose. It has an objective. It has a point. And I was fascinated by weaponized code. So I would like literally write it all down, commit it to memory, and I started doing coding in middle school as well, like working more in C++ and in C. And I just had a blast with it. And I even helped a few people. I remember in PMs on Millworm, they were like, why am I getting this error message when working with WinSock API or something? And I ended up having a blast and got kind of kicked off from that point. I then moved into web development. I figured, okay, I don't know. I figured security is infinitely promising. I just don't know enough about it. Clearly, these guys know a lot more. I knew enough to say I don't know anything. But I do know about web development, so I continued with web development, and that was for a strong decade, man. I just did freelance web development as my career. That was my job. A lot of it was for the medical industry because growing up, I was in and out of hospitals. I had a lot of medical connections. And I was able to make some concurrent income from that. So it was promising being a web developer. I was just, as the web developer aspect became easier, I got more interested in how secure my applications were. And before you know it, a lot of life, my 20s blow by. I'm 28 years old. Offensive security is tossed to me in a Google ad. I get my OSCP, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear all of your stories really of how you got to the industry where it is. So I want to get to our next question here, and Busra, I'm going to pick you first for this one. So if someone wants to enter this industry, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to that person that wanted to get into cybersecurity?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the first one that comes to my mind is do not get intimidated by the amount of knowledge that you need to learn. Because I remember when I first get into it, I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to be expert at everything, but you are just seeing all these people that have years and years of experience in different areas, and you're just a beginner, you don't know anything. but you want to know everything. And it's so easy to get burnout. It's so easy to get intimidated. So do not get intimidated. Just look at other people, what they're working on. There's so many different areas that you can get into if you want to expertise on web or API or mobile, or if you're going to be a pen tester, maybe internal network or cloud, which is like a hot topic right now, or if you want to do reverse engineering, malware. There's so many cool areas that you can get into. Just look at each of them and which one of them is most attractive to you, basically, and then decide on it and start learning. It's not like signing a contract. You can always go back and choose a different area. But in the beginning, if it's intimidating you so much, just choose one area, create a learning path for yourself. And this goes to my second advice, actually. Create a time frame for yourself. Let's say, okay, you chose the web area. You want to expertise on web. And what do you want to do? You want to get some certifications from different companies. And okay, you're just going to give yourself 6 months for preparation before the certification. And you're going to do your research. You're going to learn by yourself. You're going to learn the online resources that you can use to exercise what you learned so far, and then get into a certification prep. Not for everybody, but it really worked for me because, like I said, somebody is creating these syllabuses and all the content for you. And it's so easy for you to basically go through a learning path that most of the people out there already did as well. And then go through it, learn as much as you can. And the magic in this industry is that if you learn one vulnerability class, its application is so different for different technologies. So if you learned one vulnerability, it's not applicable for every technology. So you need to exercise this. You need to do it on action in order to learn as much as you can. And if you're not happy at the end, you can always change and jump into a different field in the same industry. It's not like signing a contract. So yeah, set realistic goals and try to follow them. That was my second advice. And the third one, I'm going to personalize this one a bit. I create content sometimes on my YouTube channel, or sometimes I blog about some topics that I'm working on if I'm doing a research. And it's not just for me. I'm sure that other people get it as well, but there's so many people that DM you whenever you create content. Oh, this is amazing. Thank you for content. There are like DMs like this, but there are also DMs like that. Okay, I see your resume. There are like these certifications that you have. I also want to get the other certificates as well. Now, please help me and mentor me. I want to get them all as quick as possible. So I'm sorry, guys, but I have to break it to you. In this industry, there's no such magical pill that you can get and learn everything overnight. You have to put effort. You have to spend hours and hours, years and years to get expertise on an area. And there's no quick shortcut here. And you need to put some effort. You need to do your own research. You need to learn how to learn, basically. And after all these, if you still need mentorship or if you still need somebody's help, there's no shame on that. Of course, just reach out to people. But in this industry, you first need to do your research. You need to learn by yourself. You need to do exercise. It's not just theory. You cannot just read a book and learn about everything as well. And after that, if you still need help, go for it. But yeah, that's my third advice. You need to learn how to learn in this industry.
Definitely have a drive, definitely be able to learn, and also try to pick a topic. Those are really some big key pieces. I feel like a lot of people should really, if they're getting started in cybersecurity, those are three pieces of advices I think people could definitely use for sure. So Harb, Siren, you guys want to be able to add your three pieces of what you think? I don't have a coin to flip. I'm sorry. But
Go ahead, Siren.
Cool beans. All right. So I actually don't have three pieces of data that I would provide here. I'd have four pieces. I thought about just doing three, and I'm like, you know what, man, this fourth piece really changed the way I looked at security entirely, and it came straight from Mattia Haroni. I can't leave this one behind.
Okay.
So but I'll get to that. Best for last. First one is back up your data. Welcome to cybersecurity. Welcome to information security. Back up your data. You can go do that now. You can do that in 10 minutes. You can do that tomorrow, but back up your data. Have it on a physical medium. Have it in a cloud medium with an ultra secure password with two-factor authentication as well, and practice good. Well, this brings me to my second one, actually. I can roll this in. In that process, keep your identities and profiles completely separated from each other. This is something that is talked about but not practiced enough, especially in today with so much social media. Keep your identity online and your professional profile separated. One contains personal information, one is for fun. The third thing so data hygiene and all that. The third thing I would say is that when you do graduate, you get your certification, you get a job, and you want to go work for an organization. Know your target. If an organization is going to hire you, do your research, find out who they are, learn about their history, learn about what departments they may have or they might not have, any public facing data, of course, I'm talking about. And the reason for that is because the last thing you want in an engagement is to fall short not because of your technical prowess, but because of some internal information that you didn't pick up on out of the get-go. So always know your target, perform your OSINT, and be thorough. And then the fourth one, which came from the founder of offensive security that shaped it forever for me, was if you're going to be a penetration tester, and this was not word for word, but what he said was error messages are a good thing. And we go our whole lives, let me explain, we go our whole lives thinking error messages happen and, oh goodness, what happened? Something went wrong. When you work in security and you find an error message, that's good for you. That means you're doing your job right. That means you're on the right path and you found something wrong that previously developers did not know about. It may even lead, if you can try hard enough, it may even lead to code execution and machine compromise. But those are not the three, those are the four pieces of advice that I would give. And yeah, so back up your data, know your target, keep identities and profiles completely separated from each other, and error messages are a good thing. Don't always think, oh no, I found an error message, what does this mean? No, it's oh no, or it's like, heck yeah, I found an error message, what does it mean so that I can maybe compromise the application or something, or the server? It's like turning it on its head a little bit. So those are my pieces of advice. And Harb, I'm gonna pass it to you, buddy.
All right. Well, I got 5. So no.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. Just kidding.
Actually, my first one very much relates to your last one, Sam. Go figure. I'd say it's like a little bit more general. It's a general version of this. So read. This sounds trite, but read the output. Right. So you're conducting stuff usually in your terminal, sometimes in a browser, but often in a terminal. And the terminal is going to spit out information at you. And that information is exactly what you need to use to figure out what to do next. But you would be tremendously surprised how many students will get output that they don't expect and their eyes kind of gloss over and they don't know what to do. This happens frequently when people start studying something mathematical or scientific with symbols that they don't understand. And instead of trying to slow down and interpret what the symbols might mean, they just kind of skip. So take your time, really, really, really analyze the output. And if you don't understand it, it's usually worth Googling and making sure that you do before moving on. There are times where you will want to kind of speed ahead and you know that the output may not be important. But if you're really trying to learn, take each moment by moment and enjoy the process. Don't rush to the end. The second piece of advice I would have is, it's often said that security is a human problem, but the human that's most important in this entire venture is you. You need to know yourself and know how your mind works. The reason you need to know how your mind works is because security is always an exercise in uncertainty. If you knew everything that there was to know about hacking a machine, then you would just sit at the keyboard and type certain characters and you'd hack the machine. Actually, at Offsec, we have internal wikis that we use so that when we want to test a machine, we know exactly what commands to type, and you'd be shocked at how few lines of code are needed for any machine. I think the largest in PWK is something like 6 lines, right? So if you knew everything there was to know, it would be really easy. But the fact is you don't. And so you need to be able to understand how you process information, understand what frustrates you, understand what gets you going, and be able to modify your learning experience based on how you are interpreting information. The last thing is, I mentioned frustration, and you will get frustrated. Everybody does. Maybe there are some really bright stars who never get frustrated in InfoSec. The fact is that because it is an exercise in uncertainty, there will always be things that you don't know and things that you bang your head against. Let's say you're a really good web app pen tester. You'll still get some web app that confuses you. And when you do, instead of saying, "Oh man, I'm really bad at web pen testing, I suck," try to tell yourself that this is a learning opportunity and a moment for you to expand your knowledge. If it's always easy, if you can hack every machine in 5 minutes, then maybe it's fun, but you're not actually learning, you're not developing yourself. The times where you get stuck are the times where you get to grow.
Those are very key points there that I think, and I think these are going to be the points that you all brought together. I think are really going to be good for people who want to get in this industry to take those tips and advice so that they could build their own sense of skills, right, and their own mindset as well too, getting into this field. So Harb, I want to kind of pick up on a question that I actually have for you. So as you've been in the industry and you've been seeing all the different mindsets, especially of where you started, what would it be if you could change anything about your career path? And this also goes for the rest of the panelists as well too. But for you, I thought, just start with you on this one. I thought this would be a good one for you to answer.
Yeah, so like I said, I studied philosophy, and in some ways, I look back and wish that I had done some kind of technical field, whether it's computer science or math or whatever. Um, because the fact is that when I studied for my PWK,
Mm-hmm.
there were other students studying at the time who had a huge advantage in the sense that they spent years as programmers or system admins or web developers or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, those foundations are non-existent for me. Over the past 7 years of working at Offsec, I've learned a lot, but I still haven't had that kind of, you know, feet on the ground experience doing networking, for example. So sometimes I fantasize about changing that, but the truth is that I think that everything that you do in your life leads up to where you are. And like I said, I'm a philosopher, so this is a little bit up in the ivory tower, but you can't go and change the past. And the idea that maybe you should, um, to me, to me, learning philosophy, learning how to structure my thoughts, how to argue a point, um, how to create a thesis, this all helped me, I think. At least I tell myself that. I think that it gave me a ability to look at problems like I can look at the problem and I can also look at how I'm thinking about the problem
Mm-hmm.
and have those two perspectives at the same time. Um, so I don't think in retrospect I would actually change very much. I would maybe want to pursue more programming on the side, but I think that if I had gone into programming and a more traditional background, for me, I wouldn't actually have ended up where I am right now, and I'm happy where I am right now. So
So nothing
sorry
you
for
would
the
change.
non-answer.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. That's okay. It's a great answer that really, inspires me as well too in this situation because no matter what you've done, no matter what mistakes you've made, right, you've learned so many different outcomes to get to the point of where you are. If you decided that you wanted to get rid of those things or just imagine getting rid of those things, there's nothing you could take back from that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But for some people there is. So for Busher or Siren, care to bring your thoughts into this as well? You know, if there's
So, yeah,
Yeah, go for it, Sam.
I was just gonna say, Harb, I had no idea you were a philosopher.
Indeed.
This whole time, this
You
whole
can't tell
time,
by
Harb,
the amount that I talk.
I had no idea, man. I'm a huge philosopher. I went to college, took philosophy. I
Oh,
have
cool.
bookshelves of philosophy. David Hume, Immanuel Kant,
Oh, awesome.
Alan Watts is a big one of mine these days. But that's good to hear. So good advice. And I do agree. I like to tell myself that all the philosophical endeavors that I have been into have helped me and made me sharper and more well-rounded with being able to handle things. So I do agree with you on that. Now back to the core underlying question that TJ asked. What would it be about what was it about my career that I would change?
What would it be if you could change anything about your career path?
Yeah, so I would say if I could change anything about my current career path, it would probably be nothing. Like I love working in offensive security. I love hands-on education with communities. I love what we're doing right now. I I love my colleagues that I've gotten to meet out in Vegas and everything, and even just over the internet. So I've loved the style of offensive security, the motto, the history, all of it. So As far as my career is concerned, I'm gold. At some point, and I think that brings up an important point, because at some point in your life, you have to be like, well, this refers to pragmatism, like being comfortable with your own surroundings, and then just a form of acceptance, if you will. Like, every job is going to have its ups and its downs. I've learned that in my 31 years on this planet. I've learned that. And I can tell you that if you do what you love, the old saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, is kind of true and kind of not. You can still love what you do and work your butt off, believe you me. But at the end of the day, then it just feels like you are playing hard. You know what I mean? So I like my job. I love my job. I love what I do. And I wouldn't change anything about it.
Awesome.
I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for. But that is the truth.
It's an answer that I respect and I enjoy hearing. And that's
cool.
That's what this is what I want. I want you guys to be open about, your thoughts, your responses to these questions that I have. So Busra, now it's your turn.
Right. The only thing I would change is the start date. I wish that I started much earlier. I was always a nerd since I was a child. I remember I was opening the remote control. I was trying to understand how things work. So I was always a nerd. And I remember in high school, I spent so much time doing research on so many different areas. I wish that I learned about hacking, all the InfoSec stuff back then, so that I would put all my energy in here. Besides this, I wouldn't change anything in my own career, but of course there are external factors that nobody in here would understand, because I'm the only woman hacker in here in this group. So unfortunately, when you're a woman in InfoSec, there are some kind of different difficulties that maybe my male colleagues are not seeing. I had so much bullying. I had so much bad comments saying that you're a woman, you're never going to be as good as me. There were so many things like that. But I'm a tough nut. When somebody says such thing to me, I get so angry, and I put all this anger in my work, and I get much better than most of these people that told me that you can't be as good as us. So I wouldn't change anything in my career, but I wish that there wouldn't be such case that women are sometimes being bullied. But yeah, this is about to change. So
no, I can understand that, especially with the way our field is and with the way people are. Really, I mean, we should all come together to be able to share knowledge with each other. It doesn't matter, what personal opinion or reflection of a person is, or what they like and the interests, right? In the end of it all, we're here to hack and have fun, and that's how it should be, and to share knowledge. So I totally get that, and I totally respect that. And the one thing actually I want to kind of pick up on, because the next question I have here is, where do you find inspiration and creativity? And Busra, I've been reading some of your articles as you've been getting your journey from OSCP to OSCE, and then you did your OSWP. So this question is going to start. You're going to start this question. So where do you find your inspiration and creativity for the stuff that you do? For the passion that you have to be in this field.
Yeah, of course. So I'm almost 30 years old. As a 30 years old grown-up woman, I love what I do, and I dream about getting OSCE, finding 0 days, thinking about Microsoft mentioning me. Oh, this 30 years old girl found 0 day in Windows kernel. I dream about this literally before I go to sleep. I close my eyes and I think about this. I know this is not normal. Probably I should think about different stuff, but that's what I do. I love what I do. I love learning new stuff. I love doing research and teach myself how to learn, basically. So that's where it comes from, like all the creativity and all these inspiration or compassion, all of these things come from that. You need to love what you do, and I love hacking, so probably I'm going to continue doing it for the rest of my life.
Good. And I think, and actually really you should, because I feel like with the stuff that you put out, the things you've done for the community, I mean, it's really helped others, especially try to get their mindset and their drive to be in this field, or try to get to a position where you've been. So, for sharing your stories, I want to say thank you to that. So Harb, oh, of course. So Harb and Siren, where do you find your inspiration, creativity? I can't flip a coin this time again.
You got this one, Harb.
Sure. So the boring answer is that right now I'm in management, and as a manager, I don't get to be super creative, but I do get to work with a team that is doing phenomenal things, and so I try to live vicariously through them. They are really doing a great job, and producing a lot of the content that you are all consuming. So that's really, really gratifying, and I try to help them as best as I can.
Hmm.
Outside of that, I have a very unique opportunity to be able to review a lot of the content before it's seen. So I get to make suggestions and tinker with it and make edits to it, and that's really fun. So that's where I get a lot of my inspiration and what gets me up in the morning.
Awesome. Siren?
So when it comes to my inspiration and where I get creativity, I look to my friends as a source of inspiration. So my immediate friends or friends that I have on the internet, I will look to them. If there's something that's on my mind, I'll run it by them. I'll get the feedback, and then I'll kind of roll with it, an idea, a concept, or something like that. And this might sound kind of corny, but I do believe that creativity can come from within. I think that if you do some soul searching, um, most of those good ideas are going to come from just like little sparks that you get when reflecting inward on who you are, what you're capable of, and you'll find that you're capable of a lot. You're one in a million. You're loved. You're different. It comes to mind. And when it comes to inspiration, creativity, I find that soul searching is a great way to do it, and also running those ideas by your friends, and you may just get a few unique ideas.
Very good points, especially for you all that have your different ways of getting inspiration, being creative for the things you do. I mean, it feels like it just connects with most of you, which is really cool. So the final question I have for you all, and I'll let Siren start with this one. Do you have any core values? And if you do, why do you have them?
Yes, I do have core values. I do have things that I believe in, and I do have things that I stand by.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So my first core value is going to be, no matter what you do in life, operate with integrity, right? Care about what it is that you're doing and give it your all. That is something I believe in very much. The next is probably walking through life in peace. I find that if in my mind I'm ever fighting about something internally, I know that's a good point just to say stop and be like, look, fighting has gone on and repeated itself through mankind's history. Why continue with such a thing? And I I choose the path of peace as much as I can, as much as I can. And the third thing I would say is a foundational principle for people. I don't know that this would apply to everybody, but maybe there's a small swath of you out there that it may hit home with, which is educate and teach others better than you were taught. It's kind of the saying of like, raising your offspring better than you were raised. I believe in that principle mainly in the field of academia and education as well. If someone taught you something in the past, find a way to teach it better, and you'll enjoy the process, and you'll find that you get a lot of joy from helping other people. And those are three of my real core principles. So yeah.
Those are solid. I like them. Harb, Busra?
TJ, those are solid. Could go either way.
Everyone's got their own
Integrity,
different.
whatever.
Everyone's got their own different core values for what they believe and what they bring on, right? So
Yeah.
some people have
I
different
just
ones.
loved your reaction. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stick on that first one from Siren, integrity. Offsec has a bunch of core values listed on our site, and for me, that one's of particular importance because we are doing and we are teaching what can be dangerous, right? So we're teaching techniques that can allow you as students to go ahead and do unethical things to people who you don't have permission to do those things to. And that is always on top of mind when we are introducing new techniques, creating new labs, enabling new material. I think it's very important that as an industry, we wield this power with responsibility, with care, and that we're always understanding the abilities that we have and that well, I wouldn't even say that the world trusts us with, because sometimes there's not even a choice, right? Like if you can hack the computer and get a shell, then it's out of the victim's hands. And so for me, being able to reflect and say, hey, look at what I can do. Let me make sure I'm doing it properly. Let me sure I have permission and that it's legal and that it's moral. That's really important.
That's an interesting core value, I'd say. I mean, you think about the real world with everything that goes on and the attacks that we do in the real world as well too against some of the critical systems that are out there. I mean, those systems hold the integrity to to life or death, and it's really a big thing that we have to watch out for and we have to keep in mind as pen testers or even as hackers, really with the stuff that we look at. So it's a good point. Bushra?
Right. So the first core value that I need to mention is respect. So whoever I work with, wherever I work at, whatever I do, respect is the most important things to me. If I don't see it from my colleagues or whoever I work with, I'm out of there. And in InfoSec, I think it's so easy for people to get behind a nickname or a screen and just be disrespectful to people. So yeah, that really irritates me when I see people being disrespectful. And this is very important to me, whatever I do, wherever I work at, or whoever I work with. The second one is passion. Like I mentioned before in the second question, I
Yep.
guess. If you love what you do, you're not seeing this as a job. You basically bring success when you love something or when you have passion for what you're doing. So passion is definitely so important because we just come to this life once and we definitely need to do something that we love, especially if we want to be successful in our careers.
Awesome. Those are great core values, and I really do. I want to hype up, your core value, respect. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to push in this field, especially, for the amount of stuff that people put out for work, for studies, knowledge, right? We have to show respect for the people that put the time and effort into the stuff that they see and the stuff that they go through. So totally, totally agree with that. Well, I'm out of questions. This is kind of awkward to be funny, but I want to take this time just to say, is there any final thoughts that any of the panelists have that they want to bring up? Anything that they want to share? That someone that's watching the stream could be able to do to move their career forward or into the infosec.
Never give up. Never surrender. Under any circumstance. Keep pushing forward. Try your hardest. Give it your all. And yeah, there's going to be those 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm slamming my head against the keyboard kind of days. But, you just have to really keep pushing and reach out to your friendships, your friends, and in times of need.
Awesome. I'm going to see if there's any questions from the chat here that we have. I think there was one question that was interesting, but if anybody has any questions that they want to go ahead and put in, now's the time to type. So there was one question I thought that was interesting, and I think this one's going to be for you, Siren. How do you separate a personal identity and for having an account that you can have fun on? These days now, everything's connected. They require personal identities to join to websites or something, what you want to do. How do you bridge the gap between that?
Yeah, it's being conscientious about who you're giving your data to these days, isn't it? So when you sign up about, something, or before you hit I agree on whatever studio's games to receive my data, be conscientious of it, because it's your private information often that these things collect, and that's you. My second bit of advice is I don't use social media. I know which question that was, and they were saying because these platforms, they require your personal information to like sign up and all that. That's why I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't sign up. I don't use those platforms. I just don't do it. I mean, I'll use Discord or something fun like that, but that's not really like a social media platform when you think of Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or any of the big ones. Those, I just stay as far away as I can, personally, from those. So and that'll help with your data hygiene. At least it should, in theory. Mm-hmm. separating your accounts, right? So you should always have one account that's never even been used for anything, and make that your primary source of data storage, so that if a hacker takes over your primary account, despite the numerous security measures you put in place, you always have everything backed up at a separate account. So again, that brings me back to my first point, which is backups on backups.
Mhm.
You always want those backups, because when your data's gone, it's going to be a bad day and probably a bad week, maybe even a bad month or bad year, depending upon how much data you've lost. So yeah, that would be my bit of advice.
Appreciate that, and I think the listener or the person from the audience will enjoy that as well too. So I have a question overall, and I think this one's actually really interesting. So from Snow Crash, how do you narrow your focus down? I feel like sometimes I forget more than I learn. Busra, you spoke a bit about this, but do you have any other advice, or anyone else from the panel have any advice to that question that they want to be able to share?
Yeah, of course. So if somebody would tell me in the beginning of my career, do not get intimidated, do not focus on everything, just focus on something, probably I wouldn't listen to them. I gave this as my first advice, but probably it's hard to resist that because there's so many things that you want to learn. You're seeing out there. There are people that are getting certifications. There are people finding, I don't know, bugs in a bug bounty programming. You want to be them. You want to have all these skills. I know there's an urge. I still have it every single day. I still want to jump into different areas. You have to control it. You have to choose an area. You have to, like I mentioned in my first advice, you have to find the field that you can actually show your skills. It can be web, because web is something that everybody is starting with when you're a beginner. But start somewhere. Start with the web. Try to, I don't know, solve some machines out there. Try to get into some vulnerable machines, and then learn about different vulnerability classes, learn about different technologies. And after that, you will see some resemblances into different fields as well. If you are then interested in mobile, just jump into it. But start from somewhere. And I would probably say just start with web. If you don't want to be an exploit developer or something at the end of the day, probably it would make sense, because you can get a job as a pen tester anywhere. You can do freelance job. It's like the entry point, basically. So I would probably say that go with the web and then decide what your passion is later.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
I think there, off the top of my head, I think there's three broad ways I can think of answering that question for yourself, other than go with web. I think that that's completely valid. The reason it's valid is because it's ubiquitous. Web is everywhere, and you're going to find work. There's a ton of work for web pen testers, web security assessors, and on the defensive side, just building secure applications is really hard. So that's the first way. Just go with what's popular. That might be today. It might be cloud. It might be malware. Anything that's really up and coming is going to be a good place. The second way is to say, you know what? I don't care about what's popular. I just want to do what I have fun with. Let's say that's reverse engineering for you. It might not be the most lucrative and popular part of InfoSec, but if that's what you're into, man, just go for it, because that's what's gonna get you going every day. No reason to sacrifice that. You're gonna find something. Mm-hmm. The last way I would think about it is, what are you already good at, right? So if you have a background in, I don't know, you have a background in networking, well, then maybe network pen testing is going to work better for you than something else. And you can always start transitioning later. But the one thing I very much agree with Busra on is you do have to pick something. Some people can be generalists, but then generally you won't end up in a very technical role. Hence yours truly. I think if you really want to, especially today, like today compared to 5-7 years ago, there's so much demand in this field. If you really want to excel, you have to pick a place and you have to make your mark.
Those are some solid tips, I feel like, to narrow down on the focus of, what you want to learn, right? Instead of jumping into so many different things. It's everything you really got to do is you take it step by step, right? It's not like you're going through a marathon, right? You got to take your time, every single step at a time, getting through the things that are out there, really, to learn this field. So, well, I think that's all the questions that we have that I got. And then also, there's one more?
Yeah, there's one more. Someone is asking, Snow Crash, how do you know? That's the one we just took.
We just
one
did.
Up. Mr. Turkish Coffee, I can't study more than 1 to 2 hours per day. I'm not sure why. How could I improve this?
Uh-huh.
So I have a few thoughts on this. If you'll permit me, I'll answer those, and then anyone else can jump in.
Absolutely.
The first is there's research that shows that most people can't actually study for more than 2 hours a day. That's a decent hard cap on humans. And in this field, we're sort of forced to do more day to day. A lot of the learning happens passively, but intense focused learning where your only goal is to learn, it's really hard to do much more than that. If you are going to break it up, then at least what the research shows is that you should try to break it up by a substantial amount of time, probably some food and a nap. So let's say you get up in the morning, you do your hour and a half of intense learning. Don't try again until much later in the day, assuming you have the energy, and try to get some sleep in between. We learn when we sleep, meaning that the processes that allow us to retain information and make connections happens when we rest. Very, very similar to physical exercise. You don't get stronger at the gym. You get stronger when you're eating and when you're sleeping afterwards. Same idea with learning. Um, if you really, really do think or do feel that you need to, spend more time studying, um, I think there are ways to do that by maximizing your environment, make sure that it's distraction free, turn off your phone, your social media, make sure that you don't have kids knocking at your door if you can. Anything to make sure that you are able to maintain the focus for a longer period. But I wouldn't focus on, I would say focus on quality, not quantity, as much as you can. What do you guys think about that?
I think those are solid tips. Anybody else from the panel want to be able to chime in on this one?
Absolutely, because during my OSCE preparation, I remember I was sleeping 4 hours a day and I was preparing 8 hours every single day for 4 months. So it was like machine, basically, I was not a human being. I would say sleep is overrated, definitely. Just drink coffee, drink Coke, whatever you can get. Like control your sleep because that's the time that you can basically put all the work in. I remember my neighbors were like super loud and I was waking up early because I didn't want to have human time around me that people were like screaming. The neighbors were like so loud, I was not able to focus. So just like while other people are sleeping, think of this as a privilege. You are a different human being. You're privileged. You're just waking up early. You're working for your career. You're working for your future. Just think like that. This is not something, oh, okay, I can't sleep much. This is so terrible. I'm waking up early. Don't think like that. This is amazing. You're working for yourself. You're waking up early. You're sacrificing something because you want to, I don't know, put effort for your future. So if you think like that, I don't know, sleep is overrated. You don't have to sleep that much.
Hard work pays off in the long run, right? Yeah. Sam, anything you want to add to this one?
It all depends how much you want it. I mean, at the end of the day, it just depends how much you want it. When I also, like Busra, when I was studying for my OSCP, there was no such thing as a 2 hour or 3 hour or 4 hour. Like I was involved in it. I loved it. It almost consumed me in a way. And it was month after month after month. I was working at a call center. So this screen here was a call center, right? And I've got this, hi, this is so-and-so with said company, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? And then we would have time between calls and I would move, rotate, and work on my OSCP and work on, and that amounted to hours and hours and hours and hours doing that, even not working and, doing time between calls kind of concept, even just on the weekends, even in free time. I was everything from pen and paper to hard disk, learning as much as I could. So I just say, excuse me, if 2 hours is rough for you, Harbinger is not wrong. That is very much within the human limit of like how much focus can you pay and how much can your central nervous system convert that short-term potentiation, short-term memory into LTP or long-term memory. And if you keep going past it and past it and past it like I did, probably not the most efficient thing. But at the end of the day, like if you want it, go get it. Don't give up. If you want it, go get it. Try as hard as you can and make it happen because you can do it. You can.
Well, I think we could wrap up a little bit early since we got through the questions from the audience and we also got through the questions on the panel. But first of all, before I close this off, I just want to say, panelists Bushra, Harb, Siren, thank you for really taking the time out of your day. I know for some of you it's very late. I know some of you it's very early, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to be here on the stream to be able to answer some of the questions. And also, I hope our audience was able to learn something as well too, with this device and tips that you guys have all given, especially being here today for this session. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
Rock on.
Awesome.
Keep it up.
So for everyone that's in the audience, thank you as well too for being here. All right, we're going to be doing live streams in the future, so make sure to check out offensive-security.com for any news, future updates, and also new releases are going to be out. So anyways, see you all. Take care. Have a good night or good morning. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.